Thank you.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. How's everyone doing?
Hi, Eric. Ibukun, please let's okay. Or you want to just go ahead?
I don't mind, Shame. I just wanted to get a feel if everyone is doing all right. Just to do an introduction, just to let you guys know. As you can see up there, my name is Eric Mabuza. I'm South African. I'm currently sitting in Boston. First of all, I would call myself, a colleague of Jude, but I consider him my brother first. So that's my brother, then friend, then colleague, then classmate. Basically, if I can give you a rundown of what I've done and who I am. Basically, I'm a junior executive at Ituba Holdings, which is basically a management company that holds the South African National Lottery license. What does that mean? No, we are not the lottery. We basically manage everything around the lottery. So we take care of all the due diligence and the paperwork and everything that needs to be done. My past experience is basically project management. That's one of my qualifications. That's where all my theory comes from, as well as by profession, I am a business analyst. So I take the time to kind of, break apart organizations and kind of see, where I can help if possible, if they would let me, and, to create value from that. And then, I've got an international higher education, which is my master's, or I'm about to get my master's in international business, as well as, I take leadership and development as a personal, or goal of mine towards encompassing everything that I do. As then for a rundown, does anyone have any questions before I start? Because, I'm going to take you guys through a quick little rundown of what I did within marketing, because as business students, as especially most of us, I'm assuming we're all African, so we're sitting in very hard markets to penetrate, whether you've got an existing product or not. So I want to take you through a few models and a few things that we've discovered within our field, especially here in the States, that could help back home. So before I get that started, does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, I guess not. Jude, can I share my screen?
Yeah, Ibukun, you can just unshare so you can share.
All right. Give me a second. Got a little bit of multiple screens, guys, so it's a little bit confusing doing everything at once. But basically, let me do this. Okay. Now, perfect. We're all on the same page. Now, okay, as business owners, as thriving entrepreneurs, we ask ourselves, what? Oh shucks, which screen am I sharing? I think I put it on the wrong one. Sorry, team. You guys might be seeing the wrong information. Apologies about that. You guys are seeing the wrong one. It's on the wrong screen. I wish someone had told me that you guys weren't seeing the PowerPoint, but either we'll continue. Well, basically, as can you guys see what you guys see exactly? Because I can't see what you guys see. I've got multiple screens. Do you guys
Pricing
see
strategy?
Okay, pricing strategy. Perfect, yeah. Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, as marketers, as entrepreneurs, as thriving, business owners, we ask ourselves, how do we penetrate certain markets? How do we go about doing certain, day-to-day businesses? And I found that the few kind of models that we're about to run through now are key essential strategies in terms of helping going about that, especially marketing, and they kind of correlate in terms of how you should run your social media, because the two come hand in hand. But before we go there, I want to just pose a question. Say, as marketers, as business owners, we need to ask ourselves one important question: is that would you, whatever you're selling, whether it's a product or service, you need to say, would you recommend this, whatever it is, to 5 closest friends and families? Reason being is, you want to make sure that whatever you have, you can structure whatever cost model or strategy you have around value, because that's the key word that you want to have for today's value and engagement. Value for price and engagement for social media, because those are the two underlying factors. And if you've got a pen and paper, I'd say write that down, because you're going to hear that come out quite a few times. Now, let's take a look at pricing, right? So we ask ourselves, what is a price exactly and why is it important? It's kind of very relevant to understand the breakdown structure of pricing, to say that there's importance around pricing with two aspects, in the sense of, as customers, that's where they attach value. They see a price and say, you know what, is this iPhone worth X amount of dollars? Am I going to pay for it? And as a manufacturer, you need to ask yourself, is it feasible? Which is one question we don't ask ourselves in the background. Is it feasible? And when you ask a question, you need to be doing, and please write this down, because I can't explain this theory, but when you're doing the feasible question, you need to say, is it feasible in the long run? And is it feasible in the short run? Where you're going to cover things like your fixed cost, your variable cost, because those things factor into your price. But unfortunately, that's a discussion for another day. But I'm just trying to say, factor these kind of elements into your cost structure and how you're going to do it. So now, basically, once again, so what is price in essence? So now, basically, price kind of determines the value of the product or good, which will be manufactured, which will then be made available to the end user, being us or your potential customers. Okay, now when setting that price, what do you look at? Because people tell me, I'm able to make, whether it's this beanie or this hat, and I'm like, okay, what do I sell it at? In South Africa, we've got this very how can I call it? It's an unofficial market, in the sense that it's not regulated. There's a lot of people who sell fruits, which stuff that they make from their own hands, and you must see the way that through competition, that's literally how they set their prices. Because you would know this as Africans. You get to the one lady at the side of the market, she's selling whatever at this price. You're like, no, there's another lady selling at that price. Make sure that whatever product or service you're providing, you need to look at your competitive landscape. How would you do that? This is where I'm going to just give you another word or a little bit of homework to go and further unpack, to say that you need to, as a business owner, know your competitive landscape. You need to have done a competitive canvas and kind of, done an analysis to see, wow, okay, from me being offered compared to my nearest or closest competitor or benchmarking. It's not always, we talk about competition, but sometimes it's about benchmarking. It's about comparing and saying, even though they're not my competitor, my direct competitor, but I thrive to be that organization. So let me benchmark. Let me kind of, put a standard to these individuals. Then the next is going to be basically cost. Please, ladies and gentlemen, tell me if I'm losing you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to kind of, join in and stop me where needed. But then basically the next is going to be cost. Why is cost important? Cost is important because this as an owner, this will kind of like determine your ROI in terms of your return. So we know the basic formula of this: too high, people won't come; too low, you won't be able to put it on the table and meet your variable cost and your fixed cost. So it's important to kind of factor in certain variables, your manufacturing costs, your labor costs, depending on what environment you're in. Like in South Africa, there's heavy regulation costs, where you need certain licensing, where you need certain what can I call this, tools to ensure that your cost structure is essential. And this is very important, guys, because it runs up your markup for your user. And to tell you the truth, in business, it does kind of, as an owner, you sit there and you're like, you want to sell your product at a high price, but what's the point of selling a product if no one's going to or can afford to buy it? And not sometimes of the matter of can afford. As owners, we need to be, very scrutinizing of our own organization and say, will they actually afford it? Do they want to afford this kind of product? And because I've sat there and I'm like, because I like this so much, I feel that I can charge $100 for this. Yet to tell you the truth, when I do my market feasibility study, I'm like, no one else will charge that. So it's good to do the comparison. Once again, value. This comes in with the first kind of question that I put out. What's in it? Would you recommend it for your friends and family? In the sense that, as an owner, we need to ask ourselves one important question here. And please write this down if you can. If you've got a pen and paper. The value ties up to one important question: is what's in it for me? The reason why I've put a certain companies there, like your Prada, Chanel, Hermes, Louis Vuitton, we know the reason why these guys can charge X amount. They can charge $1,000 for a belt. They can charge $200 for a keychain. Reason being is because there's a status symbol behind it, and that's what the client gets. That's what the client asks himself. They're like, hey, that's what's in it for me, and this is why I'm going to choose the product which I have chosen. Then next, okay. So now That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ask ourselves, how do we do this? You know, especially in the markets that we sit in, especially as Africans, you know, especially South Africa as a third world, economy. It's very difficult to, you know, start, especially startups. There's very little funding. There's very little, you know, resources. The markets are very limited. But you know what? I don't believe in looking at excuses. I believe in looking at solutions. And how do we do that? Here are the solutions. These are basically, you know, types of strategies in which, you know, you can go about laying these prices, you know, depending on your competitor, your cost, your value, and all that. So we're going to look at skimming, penetration, bundling, and psychology. Now, skimming, we see this every single year with Apple, with Samsung, with, you know, all these major tech companies where how it works is, you know, they'll come off and they'll launch a product. You know, at the end of the year, you'll see this with PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 is about, you know, also the hype. I can kind of estimate it and just watch it, because I'm going to tell you before it happens. When it does, please remember that I said it. You know, they're going to come out with a new product because it's hype around it, because it's value. What we talked about on top. What they do is they attach the highest monetary attachment to that value, to say that there's hype like now around PlayStation. People want it. So let's skim the market. When we start, instead of charging, because they know it costs them $300, $200 to make it, but instead of charging that, they're going to charge $600. Then as the time goes, that's the release date. You know, Black Friday, Christmas, this hype, this sales. As the product value decreases, the hype decreases, they drop it. Think of every iPhone X, when it comes out, or iPhone, whenever they drop a new one, it's the most ridiculous price. Given in less than 2 months, that price is at least decreased. I can almost guarantee it by a good 10%. And trust me, they can afford to do a lot more. So basically, that's your skimming of your prices. It's entering high and then going low as time goes. Now let's take a look at penetration. And ladies and gentlemen, this is where, as African business owners, this is very important to us, because, you know, this is how we enter a market, especially, you know, if they're highly competitive, you know, if there's very little resources. And how do you do this? It's basically the opposite of your skimming. Instead of starting high, going low, you're going to go low, start high. Reason being is, you know, you're small. I'll be very transparent. You know, in certain industries, I say this because myself, I am also small. You know, in certain industries, we're all small business owners. You know, we come in. There's bigger fish we can fry us. So how do we attack those fish? You know, we come in with a certain strategy that says, you know, let's tackle your market. Let's come in at a price that's X amount to challenge your Y, so we can shift your audience to our product. And by doing so, what you do is you're going to gain a brand value, brand equity. And trust me, in the short run, it might not make sense, but this is why I said you need to go research those theories. But in the long run, trust me, ladies and gentlemen, there's been organizations that have been very successful in making this kind of happen, where you can see it's like Netflix. You know, Blockbusters was huge, where, you know, growing up, I'm sure we all know this, on a Friday afternoon, whether it's Friday, Saturday, you would love the fact that your parents would take you to the movies. As soon as Netflix came and made that less than $50 for the whole month, like, if you had to close your eyes, as a business model back then, it didn't make sense. But now, because of this, man, it's become, you know, very, very possible. So if you can, the only kind of suggestion that I'll make with this is that there's a lot of costs that are involved with this, because that means that your organization itself needs to be very sustaining. It needs to be, you know, sufficient enough to take on these bigger fish. And just be careful, because, you know, I've been in this battle before. When you do this, please make sure you go contact your lawyers, so your Jude and company. So make sure you contact them, because, you know, that's where, you know, certain you know, battles take place, and you don't want to find yourself down that road. But you take them on, because it's business, guys. It's chess. It's about making moves, but in the right way. Okay, so now bundling. Once again, this I fall victim to this every day. I think last night, I'm sure tonight again. You know, every time you go buy food, you know, they tell you, do you just want the burger? Oh, let me put it like this. Every time you go to McDonald's, they don't even just say, you know, do you want a burger or do you want a drink of fries? They actually offer you the meal. They offer, you know, when you go there and say, can I have a Big Mac? You know, they don't even, if you just actually go there and say, can I have a Big Mac? Through protocol, they'll actually just offer you the meal. Because that's how they are programmed. And reason being is, as an organization, it costs them less to do that. Why? Because there's value attached through this meal. As customers, if you had to pay $1.90 for the burger, then $1.50 for the fries, then $1 for the drink, it becomes a little bit, you know, overwhelming. So what these organizations do is they bundle these things together. They put them to kind of, you know, if you know this word, they finesse you. In soccer, we in FIFA, we press L1 or R2 and circle where you finesse. You kind of get like, you know, massaged into kind of, or coerced into buying this thing. And you know, sometimes there is value, but just be careful, ladies and gentlemen, because I'll tell you the truth, it's a psychological thing that they're playing here, which goes to our next point, which is something that we all fall trap for. You know, every kind of day, I see prices where it's like $199 or $299. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a theory. It's all theory based in the sense that because it looks lower, the assumption is people will buy it. So yeah, then that's it. With regards to social media, it's a little bit difficult for me to kind of put that on a slide and kind of, you know, transfer that learning. But what I will say is, ladies and gentlemen, social media can be summed up with one word: it's engagement. Put these two resources together where, you know, you kind of combine the two in the sense that social media, it needs a certain amount of, you know, resources being money to kind of, you know, ensure that this thing is successful, because, you know, there's promotion, there's all these things, and these things, for you to get to a certain level where we close our eyes, we're like Kylie Jenner, all these guys, or it takes resources. So, you know, cover your pricing strategy in order to be able to, you know, engage with your social media by making a high ROI in the long run. And, you know, that's all I can say about it. But it was a pleasure meeting everyone, and I'll take any questions if anyone has now.
Thanks, Eric, for the presentation. Nice one. And yeah, I was expecting to see the social media too, but yeah, it's all good. And thanks for the presentation on pricing. Actually, I learned a new thing, some new stuff today. I've really never really understood this pricing aspect, because I just used to use Igbo man sense to do my pricing, but it's all good. All right, thank you, though. And if anyone has any question, feel free to ask. Cheers.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for your, this is very enlightening. But then I have a question. So it's about trying to find the balance between your pricing discretion and then price gouging. You get, so over the past, especially during this pandemic period, you know, we got to start hearing about price gouging, that companies meant to increase prices unconscionably at this time and things of the sort. But some economists are like, oh no, that's basic demand and supply and things of the sort. So how do you try to balance those two things, you know?
Can I just say, you know, my brother, it's a pleasure meeting you before I even say anything. And, you know, great question. Thank you very much for asking it, because this is something, especially as an African, you know, and I'm sitting here in the States, bro. So I ask myself this question: how do certain things happen, and how do you not they move? And the way I look at it, though, as an analyst, the way I break it down is like this: you know, in an organization, we look at your micro, right? So your HR, your PR, your marketing. With something like that, with economics, we all know that's macro. So that's your pestle, which is your political, economic, and you feel free to write this down. It's political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. If you as a business owner have got an eye on all those things, and this is where, you know, this is why these trader guys have got multiple screens, because one is looking at the politics, the other one is looking at technology, the other one is looking at legal, the other, you know, and by keeping track with these kind of, you know, what can I call them, variables, because you can't estimate these things, man. You know, right now we're in a pandemic, yet the South African rand is so bad towards the dollar, but we're all in a pandemic. I'm like, well, how does that make sense? Because all our politics are going down, all this. So, you know, I can't answer, you know, those questions, but I just know that as a business owner, keep an eye on those pestle factors. Look at and say, how are the politics in my country? And, you know, then connect the dots, because, you know, it's about connecting, right? That's what I know. So connect and say, you know, which organizations in America affect my government? Like, let me give you an example. In India, I don't know if you guys all know the saga, and correct me if there's any South Africans, but, you know, in South Africa there was a family called the Guptas, and this family had, you know, huge ties in terms of, you know, the way business was influenced in South Africa, and the way you would see or follow their trends was they owned a huge company, computer company in India called Sahara, and you would literally just follow and say, you know, what are those decisions being made there, and how do they trickle down here? So what I'm trying to say is, look at all those macro factors, your political, and see, you know, where do the dots tie, and see how do they trickle down. Like I'm just saying, as I can ask, are you Nigerian? Are you sitting in Nigeria right now?
Yeah, I'm Nigerian, but I'm the UK. That's
Perfect. In the UK, okay, it's 100%. But I'm trying to connect the dots to Nigeria because the reason why I say this is because you're not Jew, right? And we had the discussion the other day, my brother. So an example to connect the dots is Bill Gates is heavily influenced in the Nigerian economy. So how would you do that? You'd go look at his organizations here sitting in the States. It's normal Microsoft. I know there was the one with the vaccines and all that stuff, and see how do these guys move? What are the decisions being made on this table, and how do they trickle down and affect that economy? If that means sense. So do the same with oil, do the same with gold, do the same with all these other things. Just that unfortunately it takes a lot of research. But as business owners, as people who these things affect and hurt us, because these are our livelihood, this is the money we take out of our pocket to spend. It's your job to know this, and if you don't know this, then unfortunately no one will tell you, because these become inside secrets, within the business communities.
thank you for that.
Can I answer your question, man? Please.
Yes, definitely. That's
okay.
Really thanks.
No problem, man. Feel free. Is there anyone else who has anything?
Eric, I think on that note, let's invite the second speaker. And thank you again once again for wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks, guys. Can I just make a disclaimer to say that if you want to reach out, my social media is jr_Eric. You can meet me on LinkedIn as well as it's Eric Mabuza. If there's some way that I don't know if you know everyone individually or whatever the case, or if there's I can even post on the group. Beside, I'll put my details and just feel free to connect from there, guys. I don't know if you can see, but this is not something that I just do for a living, but it's a passion of mine. So especially helping us as Africans, being a unity. If I can just give you another background, so that I am involved in a private equity firm. So I do have access to certain funds and certain resources. So guys, if we sit down and make things happen, let's do this, man.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And God bless. You can feel free to sit down for the next presentation. For the next Ibukun. Okay.
Okay. So for the next person, I'm just going to give a brief introduction before he comes up. And I'm sure that from our slide, we can see a bit about him. He's an administrative and finance manager at the German Development Corporation. He has past experience with the UN and other organizations. He has a consult, and he does a lot of great things, basically. Check him on LinkedIn and read his profile, as you can see as well. So yeah, Emmanuel, we're ready for you now.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Emmanuel.
Good evening.
Hi, Eric. I made the presentation. I think maybe I missed some of your presentations. I wish I was in.
You didn't miss much. Don't worry, man. If anything, we can have this conversation, the two of us offline. I'm more than glad to go through it if there's anything you want to know, man. But it's a pleasure meeting you face to face.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, EAY Empowered African Youth Foundation's team. It's good to be on your platform to have some level of shared information and knowledge with you all. Like you quite rightly said, my name is just Emmanuel, and I just do some little things with regards to administration and finance, and this is one of my core. And I'll be glad to also share with you some of my experiences over the time for some of the things I've been involved in, personally and also organizationally. So today we'll be having a quick presentation looking at strategic planning. So I'm just going to share my screen with you with what I have right now. Just a moment while I share my screen with you all. don't know if you can see my screen. Is this visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to be sharing on the topic organizational strategic planning and execution, the future of works. And I hope we'll be able to actually have some level of shared knowledge. So let me just roll into this whole thing quickly because of I know your time is fast spent. Likewise for me also. So we're looking at strategy. What is strategy and planning? I mean, for me, I've been in development space for the past 6 years or to 7, and I've understood one of these aspects. I've also volunteered in certain international organizations and bodies, and it is one of those core. I've seen that if you are in the NGO space, you need this aspect of strategy and planning. It is very, very fundamental. And I saw that EAYF have really been doing a lot as regards to their programs and all. And I think strategic planning is just at the core of everything you do, because it all talks about the vision and the mission and the value system and what you propose to actually achieve with your objective of what you're doing. So let's go through what is strategic planning. According to the idea of transformational leadership, it's an effective strategic plan that becomes imperative because it creates an inspiring vision of the future, motivates and inspires people to engage with vision and manage delivery. Hello,
Okay.
someone saying something?
So sorry, I've muted the person. You can continue. Thanks.
All right. Now, when you look at strategy and planning, there are two different words. Strategy simply means the procedures and the processes you need to follow to take on an action and how you plan to achieve it. Planning simply means the detailed breakdown, the processes that takes you from one level to another. See, planning is in phases. You don't plan. Yes, you have future term, you have long term, you have short term. But you see, you plan for the now. You put other things in perspective, but then you work on the now and execute based on present circumstances. A lot of foundations, a lot of organizations do one thing they call planning and strategic mismatch, and this simply means them trying to plan for the next 20 years, but then they are focused on a big picture, but then they're not always seeing the need to actually see how they can work on the present phase of where they are. And that's why a lot of NGOs comes up with ideologies, ideas, and before you know it, boom, they've crashed up. It is one area of strategy and lack of planning. And according to this also, it relates to the point of how organizations achieve their objectives. I read some of your objectives sometimes back. I think one of the pictures Jude posted about Empowered African Youth Foundation, and I saw some of the objectives and I was like, this is absolutely a great plan. But then it is not just right about the vision, the mission statement and all. It is about how do you get there. It is the definition of where you are, where you're coming from, where you are, and where you want to go to. So you must define some of those things, because those are the things that will actually take you to that point where you begin to say, okay, yes, are we making progress? Are we successful? Or are we actually having more like a wishful thinking? So you must be able to create an inspiring vision for the future. See, vision is everything. What do you see in your head? What's the mental picture in your head? What do you see when you look at Empowered African Youth Foundation in the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years? What do you want to see? So it starts with the process of visioning. You need to have it all carved up. You need to have it all. You don't need to have it all figured out. Sincerely, I tell people, you don't have to have it all figured out, because you can't figure out everything. Okay, you just have to just take the next step that is significant and becomes very, very important for you to go to the next one and the next step and the one that will take you to the next step. So that's, for me, it becomes very imperative. Now, the concept of strategic planning for organizational effectiveness. Strategy helps vision take flight. Now, strategic planning is a deliberate, disciplined approach to producing fundamental decisions and action that shapes and guides what an organization is, what it does, and why. At the core of your strategy, at the core of every organization strategy, is to define what is the core of what we are doing. How do you take decisions? What is my organization meant to do? See, the fact that a lot of people see themselves as, this is our core, this is our objective. But then at the long run, they don't stick to what they are meant to do. You just want to beat around the bush, because they actually have maybe an article of association, or maybe your CSC document allows you to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things in all together, and you just feel, okay, yes, we can do this. This is not working. No. See, strategic planning simply means even if it is not working, we have to have an holistic view of how we need to put together all our broken pieces and begin to launch at it. I mean, I'd worked in the United Nations before. I've seen some of the projects. Even sometimes we do programs that don't go in the right direction as we want it to go. But we don't cancel out. We don't say, okay, we're closing out because this program is not going the right way we want it to go. But what we just do is what we call organizational effectiveness. And how do we do this? It is very simple. I'm going to be sharing some very life practical deliberate solutions to you all, as what I have seen in the past couple of 7 to 8 years in the development space. And being also in development space as you are, it is important that you know some of these things. Now, you must have a disciplined approach. See, organizations who want to give grants to NGOs are all there. They watch. See, you might not know, if you apply for a grant today, the first thing they want to see is the level at which you have been committed to a particular cause you have always had in mind. There's no doubt about that. I've also been opportune to take part in grant management for the UN when I was in the UN, and these are some of the things we look at. Amazing NGOs, amazing proposals. See, they put a detailed approach to their delivery. It is top notch, I can tell you. But we cancel them out. Why? Because they have not met some criteria that they need to meet. See, a lot of them do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things. They do it side by side. They are not so focused about one thing. So most often times you just want to feel, okay, this is what we have managed to do. You have to be successful at one aspect before you actually launch maybe something, another new venture within the same kind of organization. So it is important you have a disciplined approach. That's where this discipline comes in. It has to be a disciplined approach. And also, you need to know how you take your decisions. See, these are they call them working documents. These things are meant to be written down. I know you have them written down already, but then it's not about just the document alone. How do we implement these things? That is what organizations will look at. You think, okay, what you're doing right now, you just feel, okay, we're doing this. We're just a group of amazing, enthusiastic young people trying to do this together and the rest of them. But see, I can tell you that by the time you submit a document, a good professional development expert who wants to give you a grant would know if you have had some level of fundamental discipline in your approach to your programs and projects. They would know. So how you deliver some of these things is very important. So you must have what I call this strategic plan on how you want to launch out. It must guide you. It must shape you. You shouldn't do anything out of this document. And if you will want to do anything new, you must adopt. You must incorporate some of these things into your working document, because that shows that you know what you're doing. And at the point of incorporation, I know you all are familiar with meetings, annual meetings, and the rest of them. I know some of you are lawyers. So when it comes to this aspect, some of these things must also be documented and also be incorporated at when due. So see, your procedures, your meetings, and everything that you want to do, those are the discipline they begin to see. You may not know how they're going to ask you for these questions or this document, but yes, they would ask you at some point in time. So it also guides what you do and why are you doing what you're doing. See, organizations want to know, why are you running Empowered African Youth Foundation? Why are you doing this thing that you call Empowered Youth African Foundation? Now, it's going to be very important that it's not just by the word of mouth. See, oftentimes I tell people, you don't get to defend documentation that you send into organizations. You don't get to have the physical opportunity to defend them. So your strategic document defends them for you. So most time I tell small NGOs who are running their organizations, who are trying to become a good brand and global brand, and also build a brand name. Your strategic document helps you build a brand name. It tells them, oh, you don't take anything to Empower Youth African Foundation for any cost. They wouldn't accept. So these are the things that you must also put to have what I call organizational effectiveness before you can take flight. Now, basic strategic building systems for NGOs. Now, these are strategic plan building blocks. Now, I want you to look at that in two phases. We have the strategic and we have the operational. Now, you look at it from the ground, from the top, from the bottom to the top. Now, these are one area that is very core for any non-governmental organizations to perform. Now, the purpose. Now, you know why you set up your organization. You know why you're running what you're doing. You know why you want to put this into places. You know the visions you see. And it's very important for visionaries that you are able to communicate this vision to people for them to understand. See, we all have mere wishful thinking. We all have what was in our head that we actually want to do, but it's fine. But see, if every one of you is on the same page and one of you is not, I can tell you, you're going to have what I call a backslack. You're going to have some level of setback. Why? Is because, see, communication at this point is becoming very important, because the purpose of what you are doing must be made known, particularly to everybody on the team. They must know this is why we are doing this, and this is when we are going to do this. This is how we are going to do this. It is important you actually understand the purpose. Now, the value system. What drives your curiosity to succeed in your organization is your value system. You have to understand what's your value system. Let me just say this. I started I have my own personal foundation. I started up when I was 18. When I raised my own first foundation when I was in the university, and at the age of 18, I got my foundation registered. I started running, but this is very practical. But see, there was no strategic plan. I was doing more like a one-man show. I was trying to use my own personal funds to do things, which is fine, which is always at the beginning of every foundation. You know, you use your personal funds to do things, but then still the value system was set up, but then was not being followed. You know, so at this point in time, if you have a value system, the moment you start contradicting your value system, you begin to have what I call a loophole or lacuna in your own processes. It is something that you should be very, very careful about, the value system. So if you have a value system, every day it must be under review. Every time you must be under review. Are we in line with our value system? Because you don't know there's an ego watch, you know, about non-governmental organization. The NGO space is so wild that an ego watch in this space, because you know why? Most people are known to operate non-governmentals as being fraudulent or use them to siphon money. I'm sure you're aware about some of these things. Even myself personally, I've seen someone who sent me an email saying they want to use my own foundation to take part in 1 or 2 deals, and I was like, no, I can't do this. It's not in my value system, you know. So your value system defines what you would accept and what you can tolerate and what you can't. So if you have your value system set up straight, you're good to go. Then your vision. Vision is everything. What do you see? Like I said, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, what do you see? You begin to picture, you have a mental picture of what you see. So your mental picture drives you to do what you do. If you don't see yourself having a stage whereby your name is being called, and they call the name of maybe Bill Gates Foundation and the rest, Action Aid, Christian Aid, Save the Children, and mention them, all those big NGOs who are doing amazing things. You know, your name should actually define how you want to go about. So what do you see in the next 5 or 6, 7, 10 years? It's your decision to take. So also about strategic planning and building blocks is your SWOT analysis, your strength, your weakness, your opportunity, and the threat. See, if you're launching into the NGO space, you have so much big strength. You have also the weakness. You have an opportunity in this space so wide. I can tell you, so wide, because in the NGO space, there are opportunities for funding. Even where I work right now, you know, we give funding to small NGOs who are doing things in line with what we are doing. You know, and let me just give you a quick brief on there. An NGO that worked with us sometimes not quite long anyway, and was giving some funds, but they don't have the requisite organization structure and thing. Now it happened that this man was supposed to actually have this grant given to him for just a short time of about 3 months. The next was to give him another higher value up to the tune of about 20 million. Now this is what happened. He messed up the whole procedure because he had so big weakness. He had so much of a big weakness. No proper planning, no organizational structure, no plan, no team, no strategic blueprint, nothing. So these are some of the things we noticed, and they said, you know what? After the first implementation, these guys are not fit to run the next phase of 20 million, they can't be interested with these things. So we cut them short. So you can see practically that they they never knew we were looking at some of these things. We were looking at some of them. They were operating. We kept quiet. We let them do what they need to do. But then we saw all your loopholes and we blocked them straight away, and they were on blacklist instantly. That principally means they can't work with us anymore for any project that we have in stock, even if we are trying to look for those who are good about it. And that is one bad phase for non-governmental organizations. So you would want to have a situation by you get to that point, you don't get to see the opportunity that you can use and use it effectively. Also, is your priorities and your dashboard. Now, this is an area that has become very, very important. See, there's what we call the prioritization system models in the NGO sector. And now this is more like, what do you want to do? I know your articles, your memorandum might have given, or your constitution, as it may be, has given you, have empowered you to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, programs, activities, or ideas under the same umbrella. But see, guess what? You must prioritize which area of your strength you want to focus on first to launch you out into the sector, and then you begin to appreciate in other areas. Now, this becomes very important because your priorities should be set right. One area of your core mandate that you think it is going to bring you out to the core. I have seen people who have registered organizations who say, okay, you know what, we are an NGO sector, we are into humanitarian services and all, but then they also have the opportunity to do other maybe outreaches and health-related activities. I know they begin to swing into the pendulum in different areas. Oh, they do health today, they do this one later. They just begin to do pieces and pieces of it. You need to prioritize which area. You need to sit down. Your team need to look at, guys, let's look at which area of our plan, our strategy can we launch out first. If it's going to be capacity development, do capacity development, look for NGOs in your sector, build connection and collaborations with them, and that is going to be the beginning of your transition into that space. So it is going to be very, very important. Now, moving towards operational. Now, I have what they call strategies and campaigns. Now, this is one area that you need to look at very critically and with optimal outlook. What are your strategies to launch out? You need to have that down. See, a lot of people write strategies and, you know, they put up strategies and say, okay, yes, we are going to have these things in phases. We're going to do this. We're going to have a midterm evaluation. We're going to have a feedback mechanism and the rest of them. But listen to me. If you don't have a fit strategy, a working strategy, a lot of people have strategies that are not working. And in their mind, they think they're doing so much more in the NGO space. Believe you me, if you would grow in the NGO space as with what you're doing, you must have a working strategy. It's a working document that guides you on what to do. And these are documents you look at every time you want to go have an action done. See, guys, the NGO space is one of those areas that if you can build up your brand, have the credibility people want to see, they begin to give you the opportunity to grow in this space. It is so wide enough for so many great things. But you see, oftentimes people don't have a strategic blueprint on how to launch on. How many collaborations are you looking out for in a 3-month system? How many partnerships are you seeking out to look out for in a 6-month system? How many organizations are you trying to have affiliation with in a 1-year system? So these are strategies to launch out into those spaces, to connect with those who are the big four, who are doing some of these great things. Then the most important aspect is action plan. A lot of people have what they call wishful thinking, including NGOs. We want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. NGOs have all these things, but they don't take action. See, nothing beats action. Action is one of the most important things you need to. Execution is the fundamental thing to look at. Now, how do you execute is very important. What are your execution strategy? It is very important as a team. What's going to be our execution strategy? How do we launch out to this space and begin to retain the momentum we are starting with. You know, this is one of those aspects that becomes highly key for you to actually, nothing beats, aside from everything I've said just now on this building systems for NGOs, your actions are very, very important. So how do you go about your actions? It is going to be very key, because everybody watches what you do, and your action simply means, how do you launch that? The social media is there. How do you launch your action into the social space? You know, people want to see what you do. Do you know why a lot of people, a lot of NGOs are not really going so great in this aspect? Because let me give you an example. A lot of people do things for the picture. You know, a lot of comment comes up from the NGO space saying, "Oh, it's all for the show." And yes, truly, to be sincere, it's all for the show, because the NGO system has the cycle whereby they want to see success stories. They want to see how actions are being translated into results. So you need to have a result-based mechanism. How do we know our results? How do we differentiate our results from our impact? These are very, very key, important aspects you need to look at, because you might have a result, but it might not be giving any impact. And in this space, people look at the impact strategy. What has it done to your targeted populations? You can't have a strategy for all set of populations. So if your focus is going to be between the age of 18, for instance, to 35, your action plan must be within this range. You must take actions on this aspect. They must see that you do things in regard to this aspect, this range. But the moment you go out of your action strategy, then they begin to see fault in what you do, because they feel by then they begin to evaluate you on programs you've done, and you might not be worth working with in terms of other big fours that are going to be working with your NGO. Now, I'm going to be sharing with you some organization leaders who have strategic processing. Now, we all know this is a very familiar guy, amazing person, amazing initiative. Facebook is launching out some, but these guys, if you look at them, they have a very strategic plan in terms of how their product are being operated, how their service are being operated, what they deliver on, and the rest of them. So if you're looking at Facebook, you begin to wonder why has no competitor brought out any other platform? Because I mean, competition is always evident in any sector, be it NGO, be it in the normal corporate sector. Competition is always everywhere. But you begin to look at, I mean, why has there not been any other platform that is as large, as social as Facebook? It's because, see, their strategic processes, they begin to research every time. If anybody is going to bring out anything very new, these people are launching into space. And same thing do NGO people to do. While we're in the UN, we're understudying some of the things they do in EU, and saying, okay, how do we compare notes with these people? See, you have to compare notes with your competitors and see how to be ahead, at least a little while above them. So if you are in the NGO sector like myself, you're going to look at other areas. Now, in my own current organization right now, we are offering some vocational trainings and vocational programs, and we'll begin to look at, okay, what are other NGOs doing that is like ours? And if we are not seeing, then that means we are still afloat. But should in case we are seeing something that are looking more like, oh, these people are doing more than what we do, then we begin to look at, okay, let us adopt this into what we do. Because adoption in the NGO sector is key. Bill Gates, the same processes, similar process. Why have you not had so much people coming out to outshine some of these guys? Is because of their processes and their mode of delivery. Steve Jobs, the same thing. The man from Africa, the same thing. Aliko Dangote, the same processes. So these are just going to be all the few notable names I'm going to be just showing us, and looking at all of them all together. What do you think they have in common? When I did an understudy on all these people, one thing they have in common is just this focus, planning, execution. See, in the NGO space, you need to understand how important it is for you to actually have a focus, how you need to actually have a plan, and the most important aspect of it is execution. But the question is, how do you plan? How do you actually do your focus? in even your non-governmental organization? What do you want to do in, like I said, in the next couple of 5-6 years? You begin to do things related to them now, and you begin to plan everything you want to do in the next few years, but then work with it now. A lot of people are so much involved in working, okay, for the next 3 years, 4 years, this is what we want to do. That is the big picture. Yes, the big picture is fine. We all have big pictures. We all have what we want to see. But see, the little things we do are going to become very fundamental, and some of those things that will launch us into those spaces. Like we usually hear them say, a little drop of water, water makes an ocean. Yes, the same thing happens to my training model. When I say 1 grain of rice makes a bag of rice. So you must start with just one thing that you feel, okay, this is one thing that we know we can do. We can do very well within our team, that begin to launch us into the space of saying, how do we access other grants and other opportunities? So now, this aspect of major team morale for effectiveness. I want to believe you can see my screen. Are you still with me?
We are with you, Emmanuel.
Oh, okay, thank you. Now,
we are with you.
All right, thank you. These are meets and these are to do. I'm going to just simplify this whole morale for organizational effectiveness in just a simple form: visioning. Like I said, it is what you see. Being realistic. See, you have to be realistic with what you want to achieve. A lot of people are not realistic with what processes they want to achieve with the organization. Oh, sorry. With the organization, they're not being realistic with what they want to see. But you see, in this aspect of the non-governmental, you have to be very realistic. See, there are going to be times where you'll be carried away with a lot of things you need to do, a lot of ideas are busting in our heads every day. But guys, we need to be very realistic. What do we need to do? What do you really want to do with what you're doing right now? It is important, because a lot of people have these ideologies of, oh, guys, we need to do this, we need to do that. Oh, I think we can also do this. Yes, it's fine. But your ideas must be real. If it's not real, then it is inconsequential. It must be very, very attractive. It must be highly attractive. Now, what will make people want to get involved in what you do is the level of attractiveness, your programs, your policies, your programs, your services render. That is what's going to attract them to you. Have you ever seen Bill Gates Foundation giving grants to an organization that is not doing so well? No, it never happens. Even we don't do that. In the UN, we look at people who have had similar experiences, similar values, similar areas of implementation with what we do, and we begin to give them opportunities to grow with us. So, is your program attractive? Are your implementation attractive? How do you go about your midterm evaluations? How do you go about your program implementation? So these are some of these areas you need to look at. It has to be attractive, guys. Communication. How do you communicate your programs, your policies with the outside world is important. I could recall Jude talking about when Eric did his presentation about social media. And see, that is where we have the power of social media. Now, I'm going to tell you something I did when I was doing my own foundation in a very small way. You know, I was doing one program called the Inspire Africa, and I started a program while I was in university anyway. I did the first one, I did the second one. I was about doing the third one. See, what we do, we think is inconsequential. People see it. People are looking at these things. People are very, very much aware. You may not know, but see, guys, they are very much aware. I raised another source of money on Facebook. The man doesn't know me, but they are seeing some of the things I was doing. I was very sincere with what I was doing. See, guys, in the NGO sector, there's a lot of bad eggs everywhere. People have seen them to be people who actually want to siphon money or do things for their own personal benefit. And so oftentimes you have to work extra hard to prove them wrong. So that is why if you get, for instance, I connected a friend of mine who runs an NGO with one of the Norwegian High Commission, one of the ambassadors who I met when I was in the UN, and she was like, okay, no, you know what? Let him come with his documentation. Let him come with his details and all. They want to see what they do and all, you know. So this guy took his document there, and unfortunately, they were not very straightforward with some of their documentations. Like they were doing programs in bits and pieces. They did this one today. They did about health, like I said before. They did about this. They did just bits and pieces, and they were not. So I mean, people would not be able to work with you when they see that your programs are in shambles. They want to see how strategic you are in terms, and how do you communicate to some of these people. You begin to launch out. Like I said, use the social media to your advantage. How do you communicate this to these people? You can drag some of these people in. They want to get involved in what you do. Let me give an instance. You want to have an event. You just need just one big name, just one person in a big space to grace your event. That's not just you need. And see, NGOs or embassies who give grants to people, to non-governmental organizations, small NGOs, will be willing to give you listening here when you invite them. And where does the power come from? Your power comes from your letterhead. I tell people, your letterhead is one strong power documentation. You don't need to know anybody in a very big high commission or organization before you can actually have them at and get your audiences. No. That is the power of your letterhead. You write to them officially, and they are sent to whatever you want them to do. It is just so straightforward. But then you need to you need to communicate to these people. Now, by the time you start inviting people to your program, it's also an act of communication, but people don't see it as that. I can tell you, it is an act of communication, because they begin to see the opportunity that they are working with you. Now, you've not asked them for money, but you're asking them to get involved in what you do. So by the time you ask them for money, it becomes very easy for them to see the opportunity to work with you. I know my time is getting very fast spent. Now, program and services. Your program and service, like I said, must meet the highest deliverable standards. You're launching out now, you're launching out small, very good. But then there's a standard you're not meant to fall beneath. Now, if you actually have a strategic document and you say, this is what we want to do, they want to see how do you go about delivering your service and your programs? How do you go about your research assessment? How do you go about your impact needs assessment? How do you go about some of this? Now, if you were going to do a program or service in a particular sector, you must understand an impact need. They want to see how you documented some of this impact need. Sometimes we request for impact need from NGOs. How do you know these people need some of these things? Oh, we went to this NGO, we went to this community. We saw some of these things. We took pictures. They want to see your before and after. Those are programs and service delivery that they want to see. So in the NGO sector, picture speaks more than your documents. I want to tell you this today. Your picture speaks more than your document. So most times I tell people, even this one event you have documented, keep it very safe, because one day you have the opportunity to use that documentation. People development and skills. You must see the ability for you to develop your team. Your people and development skills are going to be very, very important for you to actually put towards NGOs. They want to see how much of what are those on the team. What's the capacity? So even if your foundation cannot sponsor members for a particular kind of training, it is important if you actually buy into the vision of what you do right now. Begin to look at what area of job or area of work you are handling. Begin to take relevant certifications. Some of them are free. If you go to them, there's a lot of strategic management courses that are free of charge. If you want me to share with you, I could share some links with you of all organizations who are doing certifications that are free, and it goes a long way. I can tell you, it goes a big, long way in seeing that, okay, these are some of the certifications you have that show that you are developing skill and you actually have the manpower to take up any organizational partnership. Because see, what drives any NGO to give you or work with you is who is on board. Where have they worked before? What do they do? What knowledge do they have? How are we sure that their management skills is intact? Are we sure that they can manage this whole fund or these ideas, this thing we are giving to them? So these are areas they want to see. They are great areas they want to see. So you have, even if you can have program funded, like organization funded programs for team members who are buying into the vision to begin to see how to align with it. So you must have what I call the alignment, agreement, and what I call alignment and agreement. Now you begin to align to some of these things, and you begin to take some of the things you've agreed on into fruition. Budget seek support external budgets. Oh, sorry, that's the mistake. It's meant to be seek budget and seeking external support. That's the mistake. Sorry, guys. You need to have a budget. Even if you're using your personal funds to run an organization, see, it must show how this money comes in and how it goes out. You know, these are what shows the organization that, okay, yes, we are small, but then these are the processes of how we operate in our organization. These are the contributions by members. These are what we execute. These are vouchers. These are procedures we take. Now, the question is, let me ask you a question. How do you release money for programs? You want to procure something. How do you go about some of these things? Your procurement policy, is it intact? Your program policy, is it intact? So organization want to see how, even when you are very small, how do you do this thing? If you're not trusted with small little things, they can't trust you with bigger things. So it's start from the ones you have and the ones you would be able to put out. Now, talking about grants and support, external support. Now, this is one area that I tell people, see, there are grants everywhere. There are grants for different programs everywhere, but how do you access it? It takes strategy for you to access it. Needful to say that your strategy document will also be requested for when you are seeking grant for places at Norwegian Embassy or even in the United Nations. Sometimes we call for proposals and we see a lot of NGOs who send in a proposal, fantastic proposals. See, their strategy document and implementation is messed up, absolutely messed up. And we don't even take time. We just dump them somewhere and we say, this guy, they can't do this job. So how are you putting up your strategic document together as a team defines how much more external support you're going to get. Grow through collaboration. Like I said before, you need to collaborate. Collaboration is the basis of effectiveness. Who are you collaborating with? Who are you bringing on board to your program? Who are they seeing in your catchment area? Who is in your network? So you begin to understand the power of networking as a team. Where are we going to get the kind of network we need to get? See, if you want to grow, you can't be in the midst of the people that are the same level with you. You need to tap from above. So how do you do this? For instance, I can tell you a practical example. You run a small NGO and you have an event. You might not even need to bring you have to be strategic. Look for a particular person in an organization that is very good. I mean, the LinkedIn is there. A lot of platforms that you can get people, even Instagram, a lot of people you feel are in this sector. Reach out to them on your handle and tell them, introduce yourself and tell them, this is my team, this is our team, this is what we do. We would love you in person to actually grace our event. Now, what you have just done is a collaboration, individual collaboration before corporate collaboration. Because see, guys, you need an individual to launch you into their corporate space. I'm going to say that you need an individual to launch it into the corporate space. Oftentimes, see, let's not hide these things for myself. There are politics in everywhere. I'm going to be very truthful with you. I've been in this sector for the past 8 years. I can tell you, even in the UN system, there are politics everywhere. So you need to know, how do you access corporate collaboration? It starts from individual collaborations. So I'm going to have an event now. I'm going to bring somebody who is a top leader on an individual basis to my program. After connecting with him, after having that understanding, he now believes in our vision individually. Then we're going to sell the idea about our corporate collaboration with him and say, okay, we now want to collaborate with your entity in person. So how do we go about these things? It is one of those areas that you need to look out for. So begin to look for individuals who can launch into the corporate space. It's going to be very, very important. So personal collaborations and brings about corporate collaborations. Now, I want you to know this, need to know. Strategies are adopted and modified. See, forget about people saying, oh, our strategy document is intact, how do they say this? Our strategy document is phenomenal, it is genuine, see guys, strategies are generic. You can find strategies anywhere. Go online, you see strategies. Go anywhere, you see strategies. See guys, pick up strategies that you've seen before, modify them and tweak them into your own way and launch. I can tell you this. Forget about this whole idea, oh, we are the one now it's good to be creative. I'm not, no doubt about that. But see, the world is so evolving. There is nothing new anymore under the sun. I'm going to say that again. There is nothing new anywhere under the sun. Strategies are being modified and adopted. Now, let me give an example. You remember Jig? When Jig was operating, everybody buys Jig. Everybody used to watch their white, sparkling white, and the rest of them. But now, guys, when IPO came into power, I'm going to use came into power because I mean it's not like they've taken over anyway. So IPO they need to modify what Jig has been doing. You know, so IPO launched what they call the sachet, the consumer or customer friendly sachet that comes in a 15-hour pack, because they knew that these people, a lot of local population, they begin to speak to the local population, and they begin to say, okay, yes, these people cannot actually have these things in 50 liters, in 20, 10 liters, and the rest of them. So they begin to launch. Now, what they did was that they overtook them in bits of delivery. Having done that, now even anybody who have been able to understand that IPO is a brand name, and in terms of maybe you want to use Jig your clothes or whatever, they begin to go for IPO. Why? Because see, they saw that strategy, they modified it, and they adopted. So you can have organic strategy, that is fine. But see, look out other strategy. You have to be competitive in this space. There are 1,001 NGOs in this. Let me just say Nigeria alone. There are over 1,001 NGOs doing almost the same thing you are doing. So you need to look out for them. What do they do? How can you modify yours to become more than what they deliver? And that is it. See, strategies must be reviewed. How often do you review your strategy? You need to sit down with the team. You need to decide. Our strategy will be reviewed 3 times in a year. It will be reviewed on a quarterly basis. So 4 times in a year, we will sit down and review our strategy. Is it working? Is it not working? You decide what is working and what is not working. So it is up to you to decide, okay, this is not working for us, let's take it out. But you can't just say, okay, this is not working for us in this month, but I don't want to do it again. No. You have to pilot. And pilot simply means watch it for some period of time. Does it work for us? Does it not work for us? As an NGO, if this strategy is not working for us, you jettison it and you adopt a new one. That is just the idea. Now, ST should have indicators. What are your basis indicators? What are those things you are going to set? Okay, now these are indicators. Let's assume you want to set an indicator now, and you're launching a program called maybe an humanitarian program. Now, what shows that humanitarian program you are launching is impactful is your indicators. And how do you define your indicators? Those are the basic things you see as being able to achieve your own vision for that set project you are doing. So you must begin to launch your indicators. What indicators do you want to put in place? You must put them down and define them from the beginning of your delivery. So even as you begin to run your organizations, you must have a set of indicators that says, are we meeting our objective of Empowered African Youth Foundation or not? So if there are no indicators, then that means you are not ready to launch. You're not ready to pilot anything. So indicators begin to help you to see if these things are relevant or not. It seems that I'm past time, yeah? Okay. I think I'm just going to just skip some of them because I think I've been given notification. So evaluations must be holistic. See, guys, you must always have an holistic evaluation. It is very important. How many more minutes do I have? Do I have up to 5 minutes?
Yeah, you can have 5 more minutes just to round up and yeah.
Okay, great. So I run up in like 4 minutes and there are questions and all. Okay.
Okay.
Evaluation must be holistic. Even big NGOs. When I did a project on peace and security about 3 years ago in the UN, I was also always in the Northeast. And after the program ended, we did what I call an holistic appraisal. You must begin to appraise your within your team, and it's good to also seek external appraisal. Have people who are in the international development space that you feel you can always call upon anytime when you want to launch a program and say, okay, please, we're launching this program. This is our document, and this is our delivery. Then when you pilot, you need to tell them, oh, we need you to appraise what we have done. This is our impact assessment. This is our deliverables. This is our impact done. This is our result-based document. This is our indicators. So they will be the one to tell you, oh, this is fine, this is not good. I mean, you can do it within your project, fine, but you you should also get external support for those who are in the space of development. I can also give you an holistic appraisal of what you're doing. It is important. Even we at the UN, we do it. You must have a feedback mechanism. That is very important. I'm sure you understand the idea of feedback mechanism. How do you get feedback? What are the procedures you use in getting feedback? Do you document your feedback mechanism? Because sometimes when you send proposals to organization, they want to see your feedback mechanism. What are people saying about what you do? It is a very big indicator to define if you will be given opportunity to work with big brands or not. Your feedback mechanism. So that is why you see a lot of NGOs, when they do things, they do short videos and for people to say, oh yes, we were empowered by Empowered African Youth Foundation, we are doing this, we are doing that, and they have been able to do this and do that. See, these are feedback mechanisms that people want to see. You put it as part of your proposal in a small city, you send it to your organization, they will play it. I can bet you for sure. They're going to play what you send to them, and they're going to look at it, and they're going to see. And when your feedback mechanism is not sincere, see guys, we know a lot of NGOs do some of these things and just go and get people to come and do videos and all, but then these people are going to do what I call tracking. They're going to track you with your information. They're going to try to see, okay, who are these people that have benefited from these things? Can we see how to get 1 or 2 persons who have done this before? So sometimes your feedback mechanism must always be very sincere. This is very conventional. You must accept internal criticism and also adopt modifications. That is very straightforward. You must support organizations requires a corporate governance. Now, yes, I want to talk about government governance structure. I know you already have a structure already, because I see from what I got from Jude, you actually have those who are on the board, those who are your big network, and those who are on the executive team, which is perfect, which is good. But also, aside from that, you need to also put down what I call an SOP, standard operating procedure. And now, how do you operate other aspects of your program? That is very important. You know, that is maybe a story for another day, because for SOP, if I will do
what did you say? Standard operative what? Sorry to cut you short.
Standard operating procedure.
Okay.
Yes, these are document of authorization that says, okay, do this. This is authorized to do this and this and this. Ibukun is authorized to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in this, and if in the case these people are not available, she needs to seek consent from here and here and here. So these are SOP that you must put in place. Organizations request these things. These are people who have the capacities. How do your processes goes? This is your SOP that defines how all these things operate, and you must have them as a live document. It's a live document that you must have as an organization. So you must have an SOP, because it's part of your corporate governance. These are some of the things they want to see, because they want to believe that they don't deal with individuals. Because a lot of individuals run organizations and put people who are fictitious there and tell them, okay, these are people in these places and all. But then it is not true. It is like a one-man show and the rest of them. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of them before anyway that are blacklisted in the UN, and they can't work with us anymore. So you have to also be careful. Sometimes you might be sincere, but then the way you present your documentation to organization, they will think you are not right. You're not very, very sincere. So they block you out, and you'll be wondering why you send proposals 20 times, you don't get a response. Those are some of the things you will see. They won't communicate it to you, but you never see them responding to you. So your SOP, before you write to any organizations or big brands, you have to put them in place. So team leaders think outside the box. I'm sure you all here are all the executive of Empowered African Youth. So you have to think outside the box. Yep. You have to begin to think creatively what you need to do. I'm going to skip this and this. I thought I'm going to have a lot of time. I know I don't have time. So 8 traits of strategic thinkers. I can't take this anymore. But let me just wrap it up. Problem-solving skills, being creative. Because you see, in this aspect of NGO, you have to be creative, because like I said, there are 1,001 NGOs doing the same thing you are doing. I can tell you. But what makes you stand out and what makes you get opportunity for grants and funding is how creative you are. With this modern age, I'm sure you understand what I mean. You have to be resilient in a place of uncertain environment. Sometimes you do projects that you don't think is going to actually make any impact, but then you have to keep pushing. That is one of the things you face within NGO sector. You will have those events that you feel becomes insignificant, but then they are. keep pushing. You have to be comfortable with failure, because I'm sure this is not a tool that you will fail at some point in time. That is true. But I call it what I call successful failure. So when you fail as a team, after that you have learned something and kick back and begin to implement. It is just a normal thing in this sector. Understand other people's need. You have to be other people's eyes, making do with limited resources. You don't have a lot of resources at your disposal right away because there are no funding, there are no grants ready, right? But then I can bet you, if you position yourself, there's what I call position effect. If you position yourself so well, people will think you're a big brand. They won't understand. I can tell you this. So we can always take that later. You have to be comfortable with teamwork. Everybody have to know what they do and how they do about it. If you are really committed to this vision, you have to be very sincere about it. You have to be able to pitch an idea. See, sometimes you get proposals to come and what do you call it? Call for initiative or ideas. You have to be able to pitch new ideas, put in something sweetened that other people want to see. So in this sector, I can tell you, you have to keep learning. What are other people doing that you need to learn from, and you need to just do more than what they have done? It is what I call deliverables. Their deliverables is what you just learn from, and you begin to add 2, 3, or 5 nuggets to it, and you are gone. They begin to wonder, how did you do it? But because you studied them, you understudied them, and you begin to. So please, you need to pick an organization that is not so big, that is like a competitor, but is doing so well that you can understudy. Even myself, when I was running my NGO, I began to understudy Youngster Foundation. They were doing so much. And when they wrote to the UN, I was opportune to be in the UN then. I gave them our first one of our grants because I was understudying them even before I got into the UN. They were really good. So when I was in that position, I gave them because I already know them. So you see the idea of what I call it, individual collaboration before corporate collaboration. And I also knew the what I call it, the president then. So this is the end of my presentation. Yeah, this is where I call it a break. And if you have any questions, maybe the leadership has questions to ask, you can ask me, or maybe an email would also do. I would respond anytime. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for this presentation. This was quite very in-depth and intense. Thank you. Really nice slides. First, I wanted to ask if you could please send the slide to my email. Is it possible to share your intellectual property? I don't know if you're cool with that, so that I can always share with the team so that they can read it while we're sending out our info. And then for the questions aspect, I like how you went in depth with all your points, especially need to do and what we should not do. And for assessing grants, like we have been applying, and you mentioned something about blacklisting some organizations. Honestly, because since we started the NGO, in fact, on the first year, even when we didn't really know much, we just started, we have been applying. So I hope we are not blacklisted. And how can we, when we are putting out applications, because most times these applications, when you see them online, they're very short, but you don't know the criteria and what they are using to select organizations and all those things. And many of the times after we apply, we never get it. So I wanted to ask, from your experience, just what do you think, after this whole presentation, in summary, what do you think we should do, when we are applying to ensure that we get these grants? Thanks.
Okay, now every organizations usually have what they call the standard procedure of operations. Now, this is what they do. This is a standard one for the NGO sector. These are some of the things they want to see when you are submitting your I'm sure you will see some of those things that they say these are the requirements you must submit to them, But then they want to see your conceptual framework. Now, your conceptual framework is that aspect of that project you are applying for that shows that you have an in-depth knowledge of what they want to see. Now, it also gives you an understanding that, okay, yes, in as much as you have a very strong knowledge of what they want to work with you about, your SOP also would, like I said, it is one area they want to see. Is your SOP how your organization is being formed? Is it what they can give you grant for? See, because a lot of people have scammed a lot of big NGOs. A lot of people have scammed a lot of big NGOs. So when you are applying for some of these things, for you not to get maybe blacklisted or maybe never get a response, you need to have some documents down. You need to have some documents down that, that anytime they call upon you for any job, those documents are non-negotiable. If I will begin to dive into that now, maybe I can relate it to you. Maybe I am by emails, just send you something brief on some of the things.
I think that is fine, because even the time and everything. So maybe you can just we can have a private call if that's fine by you. Anytime you are.
That works for me.
Then we can talk about this maybe with some of our board members as well. And
I mean that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. So if you have those documents down, they're non-negotiable. They won't mention them anyway. To be sincere, they won't mention them because there's what I call the commercial suitability check. We do this for all NGOs. If you don't know, I mean they don't know. We do it at their back. I'm giving you a secret anyway. We do it at their back, and when we do a commercial suitability check, and you don't meet the check expectations, you don't hear from them.
Okay.
Yes. You don't hear from them. They just keep mute because they go ahead to select somebody else. They just tell you, oh, put this aside because he didn't meet the commercial suitability check. They do this they go as far as going back to, sometimes we go to CAC to check some of these documents. Like the last grant I gave in my organization, we go to the CAC to check the documentation. We ask them to submit their bank statement. We go to see sometimes, okay, are they really operating this thing? Who are those having some of these things to operate to them at all? So aside from some of these things, we look at their conceptual framework and the context at which what we want to deliver, what we want them to deliver on, if they have broad knowledge about it. So and we see that, okay, what are the other things that they've done in this area before? We begin to check. We can go back, check their Facebook. That's why every of your, like I said, communication is very key in what you do. Post some of the things you do. Show what you have success stories. Do short clips. It doesn't take so much. Those little things you think they don't see, we go to check them. And by the time we check and say, oh, they've never done something in this area before and they're applying for this grant, they're going to be a flop eventually. We don't call them eventually. You know? So there are some other documents that like I said, we can always have a private call. I can always share that with you, and you know why you will receive a grant and why you will not receive a grant.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel. And again, thank you, Eric, for you guys coming in to join us. This is our team. Although many people have gone because of the internet. You know, in Nigeria, our internet is not very strong.
Yeah.
Right? But we understand. Thank you guys very much again. And yeah, that is it basically. I don't know if anyone has any questions for you guys or wants to connect with any of you. Please feel free to do so that we can proceed to conclude. I don't know. Anyone has anything to say?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, once again, thank you very much, Jude, for inviting me to this platform. Yeah. Emmanuel, it was a pleasure meeting you. I never got the chance because we had connected, I guess, on social. As for the rest of the team, guys, it was a pleasure, contacting and meeting everyone. Like I said, feel free to reach out and you can take it from there. But good luck to everyone on their personal journeys. I understand this coronavirus has affected all of us in terms of our operations. All I say to that is let's not look for excuses, but let's look for solutions. So let's make things